I was very intrigued, as I usually am when I go to your site, with your contention that you, one of the most prolific people I know, who does more in a day than I can even probably do in a month, you say that you are inherently a lazy person. Really, Dr. Hankel?
Yeah, I think it comes down to motivation. And if I'm not interested in something, or if I don't have at least some control over my progress, or I can't see my progress, I disengage pretty quickly. And I think a lot of people are like that.
You quote, you cite a great quote, and I like this, along with the one I mentioned earlier. It says, if you want to build a ship, don't drum up people together to collect wood, and don't assign them tasks and work, but rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. I love the romanticism and the prose of that, but I also love the idea of that. Translate it for us, though, if you will.
Yes, this is one of my favorite quotes also, and it makes a key point. If you want people to do something, you don't micromanage or bark orders at them or have them focus on the nitty-gritty. You create a vision for them. You paint a picture. You get them inspired, and that will pull them forward. So don't try to push them forward with little details. Create a vision first, pull them forward, and then work backwards from that vision.
Mm-hmm. And you say that the key really to motivating yourself especially comes down to knowing what it is that motivates you. Shockingly, a lot of adults don't even know what motivates them. Talk to us a little about those more intrinsic motivators.
Right. So these are called needs, and they're not your physical needs like food or water, but your psychological needs. And there's lots of theories on this. People think that there's maybe 4 human psychological needs, maybe 6 human needs. I think there's I think there's three core human needs, and that would be growth, autonomy, and connection. And I think if you're not feeling a sense of growth in your life and you feel stuck, that's when people really, really get miserable. Same if you don't feel a sense of connection, if you're not connected with other people. And this might be connection in the form of raising yourself up to feel like significant, like your life matters, or connecting with people and helping people, contributions, stuff like that. And then finally, autonomy, like having a sense of freedom or control over your own life is also a key need.
I always love when you go into factors that you say motivate people, or whatever your list is of the day, because there are always little shockers in there. Is shock part of motivation as well? Is shock part of, I mean, if you use that in all of your lists that you come up with, Dr. Hankel, I'm just guessing there's a reason for that. And I want to ask you about the psychology behind the use of shock.
Yeah, I like that you use the word shock. And there's a really good book called Made to Stick by a couple of guys named Chip and Dan Heath. And they said unexpected things make people pay attention, and they make ideas really sticky. And it's absolutely true. As part of the list that I wrote down 2 things that kind of are, I would guess, brothers and sisters of shock. One, confusion, and the second is just straight out disgust or grossing people out. And the reason these work so well is because they arouse us. They physically arouse us. And anytime people are physically aroused, they're going to be more likely to take action. And a lot of things have shown this. So for confusing people, I use an example from a 4-time New York Times bestselling author, A.J. Jacobs. His most recent book is called Drop Dead Healthy. This doesn't make any sense. How can you be drop dead healthy? So it's a little bit confusing, but you can see how it kind of can make sense, and it makes people want to resolve that paradox. So they take action in buying the book and reading it to resolve it.
I like that. You also say in your list of 25 ways to motivate people, you say, give them something to prove. Not as easy as it sounds, though, is it?
No, it's definitely not. But if you can challenge people, and this works with a lot of different things. It works with sales. It works in relationships. I give an example of when I was in graduate school. I had a past girlfriend. She'd always email me, and she would say, "How you doing?" And I'd read this, and I'd be like, "Oh, of course I want to prove to her that I'm doing really, really well." And so I'd write like 2 different paragraphs and all this information, and then she'd never respond, and I felt like an idiot. So this urge to prove ourselves or to show that we're important or significant, it's definitely a need, and I think it's tied to connection. The key is channeling that desire to fulfill that need in a productive way, in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. Another one that I thought was really interesting, because I really think there is a clear psychology behind this, is the idea, you say, number 5, reject people. Rejecting people doesn't seem to be like the best motivator ever. And certainly, if you were to ask the people you're trying to motivate, it's very seriously doubtful that they're going to say, "Oh, just reject me." But tell us about how this works.
Yeah, this is one of those psychological things that people say doesn't work, but actually works. It's similar to credibility. They've done studies where people have been in a car, sitting in a car, and the person behind them is in a really nice car and honks their horn, or is in a kind of a crappy beater car and honks their horn. And then they've timed how long it takes them to get moving after they hear the honk. And the average person will get moving much faster if somebody in a nice car honks the horn behind them. But people don't think they respond this way to nice things or credibility. So that's another example. But the same goes for rejection. If you get rejected, study after study shows that you actually want it more. I mean, we've all heard the phrase, you want what you can't have.
Sure.
The ironic thing is that you want it more, but once you obtain it, you actually are less likely to keep wanting it.
Interesting.
You got to be careful with that one.
Interesting. Yeah, absolutely. And finally, you say one of the things you say in the final phases of this ways to motivate people is if you just remove people's options, you leave them really very little choice. I think I do this quite a lot with I hate to say it, but with my children and employees. I will say, these are your 2 options. You can do this or you can do that. And knowing that they're going to pick the one that I want, because obviously I make it a little bit better than the one than the other option. But is that a last minute resort, or is that a last resort, or is that something that you can try early on, or these other things that you recommend as ways to motivate people better early?
I think you should use this to your advantage whenever possible, but you should also know when other people are using it against you. You have to always be able to zoom in and zoom out. So if somebody gives you 2 or 3 options, you got to go be like, wait a second, zoom out a little bit. Are there actually 4 or 5 different options? Can I actually take both of these options? That's the important part. But for a lot of people, yeah, I mean, sometimes people get bogged down by having too many options too, so you're really doing them a favor. If you give them 6 or, go to the condiment aisle at a grocery store. There's like 1,000 different options. It's hard to pick one. But if you would eliminate that and only offer 1 or 2, it would actually help people make a decision faster and drive them to take action faster.
Yeah, exactly. What's your favorite of your list of 25 things to motivate people?
It's the last one. Measure their progress. Measure your progress. If measuring things energizes you. If you can see progress, you will stay motivated to keep moving forward, because it's that growth. And I think growth is by far the most important human need. Once you stop feeling like you're growing in a certain area of your life, whether it be your professional life or personal life, it can really weigh you down. And if that happens for long enough, people can lose their drive altogether. So the key here is that it's tricky, because you don't want to just start measuring things like crazy, especially now in the internet age. People measure all kinds of analytics. You got to make sure you're measuring the right thing, something that's actually going to make you move closer towards the outcome that you want, towards your goals.
I think that's really important, and you bring up a good point. In the internet age, much of what many of us are trying to do as bloggers, as hosts, as website owners, is to motivate people. What's the best trick you know there? You have 1 minute.
Tie it to, don't think about yourself, think about your audience. What do they want? Try to tie what you do to their identity, their self-interest. And again, go back to their needs. What do they need? Figure out what your target audience needs, provide a solution for that need, fulfill that need, and they're going to click, they're going to buy, they're going to read.
Yeah, I think that's a great point too. 25 ways to motivate people. What's been your response to this, Dr. Hankel?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What has been your response to this?
It's really good. I mean, I've had quite a few people that are kind of, especially in the entrepreneurial circles, and people like you said that are doing things online, bloggers and such. They've really kind of taken to this article because it shows you how to inspire action. And again, we're trying to get people to share ideas. We call it the connection economy or the attention economy. So how do you get people to share? How do you get people to care what you're doing? And the only way to do that is to fulfill one of their needs that they have, one of those key needs.
All right, the website, isaiahhankel.com, isaiahhankel.com. Safe travels, Dr. Hankel. Thank you so much for joining us all the way from Europe today, I might add. Thanks for being with us.